Okay. Hi guys, I'm Allie.
I'm Jay.
And welcome to Pretty Perspectives Podcast.
Where today we're going to be talking about the difference between being alone versus lonely. What do you feel like the difference is between being alone versus feeling lonely?
So I feel like alone is more of a physical, like I'm alone, like at home alone, not with friends or something like that, while
like no presence. Nobody
right,
else's presence.
Like you're actually alone, like no one's presence is there, yeah. And then loneliness is the feeling of, even if you're in the presence of people, you feel that aloneness. Like your spirit is alone. Like you just feel that without, even if it could be around people.
Yeah.
So like more of an emotional state than a physical state.
No, I get that. I guess I didn't even think about it in the context of like when you're actually with people.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like when you feel lonely, there's like a missing. Like something's missing. And it's normally it's internally something's missing.
Right.
Where like for the most part I like being alone.
Like by yourself.
Like by myself. Like I don't mind it, but it wasn't always that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I can recall probably my first feelings of loneliness was after like my first major breakup, as serious as your first major breakup can be, like when you're a teenager. But like you're not in school anymore. I wasn't in school anymore as far as like high school where you are around all these people all the time, and then also my relationship ending. So I found myself spending a lot of time alone.
Mm-hmm.
And like it wasn't always as comfortable as it is now, where I feel like now I have very much an awareness of self. So like you said, when I think about if I am in the room with others and I do feel lonely, it's because I don't necessarily belong in that space. Like my spirit doesn't feel safe or lit up by that space.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Versus anything. Like I'd much rather be physically alone and safe in my own space, my energy, centered or at peace. Because I feel like you should be at home with yourself. Or practicing spending time alone will encourage feeling at home with yourself.
And I also think that's a part of us getting to know ourselves. Getting to know ourselves on a deeper level, like the things that we like, the things that we don't like, who we are behind the scenes in private versus being out with people and stuff like that. And I think sometimes we take it for granted because we so want to be in the mix with other people and be outside and have all the fun stuff, but we don't take the time to...
Like we're missing something.
Right.
Like being out there is like...
It's like that FOMO stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of missing out on something, but like really are we taking the time to digest ourselves, like who we are? Like do we like the way that we talked to that person the other day, or something like really getting in tune with who you are? And I think alone time is very important, and knowing that and then discovering the difference when you feel lonely, although you're in a group or in a room full of people. But that just takes a level of self-awareness that is always
evolving.
Right.
It's always evolving. I think that's so important to highlight because we feel like we deal with something, right? And I got that. You know what I mean? Like it's a checkbox. Like, oh, I've dealt with being lonely and I will never be lonely again, which is how it occurred to me the first time I was lonely. And I'm like, but I take myself out to eat. I take myself to the movies. You know what I mean? I'll do whatever by myself. And then during the pandemic, you know what I mean? Like working from home, not being around people as much, there being nobody home to like interact with, I found myself re-experiencing that all over again, but at a different level. And it was like I blamed myself or felt like, what's wrong with me? I like being alone.
Right.
Especially because a lot of times I'd consider myself to be introverted in the sense that I need to recharge by myself, to then go out in the world and be the best version of myself. But I got that just how every day I get to know you in a different way. Like, if I'm not willing to meet a new version of Allie every day, I don't think our friendship would have lasted as long as it had.
Right.
And vice versa, right? Because I get to see you newly and hear you newly every day. And I think we need to give ourselves the same, like, grace and compassion. Because, like, I know who Jalen is. Mm-hmm. And then I had this experience where I'm like, whoa, I've dealt with this before. Or, whoa, I shouldn't be feeling this way. This isn't a Jalen way to feel.
It's like you attract the person, like, who you are, and noticing that.
And then it's so obvious when, well, why is Allie misunderstanding me? Or why is this person that I'm interacting with not receiving me the way that I think I should be received? But it's like, have I reintroduced myself to myself? Mm-hmm. Have I spent enough time with myself and given myself, like, the generosity to discover me newly in a way where I can be received by others? Mm-hmm. Maybe I haven't met that version of myself yet. So how the hell do I expect you to receive me in that way? It's like, oh,
I get that. That was deep.
I just thought about that.
That was deep.
Well, that's actually something, like, I dealt with recently. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I was appalled with myself. Like we were talking about the other day, like, I have to get back to somewhere. I have to get back to, like, the version of Jalen that is okay with being by herself. Like, why don't I feel that way? But it was just, like, giving myself the generosity and space to be how I am and rediscover myself inside of that space.
And to create a new you.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to go back to, like, going back to what you said. There's no person to go back to. There's not... essentially, you don't want to go back to the old you, right? Mm-hmm. You want to create yourself newly. You want to grow. You want to evolve. And just giving yourself the compassion to do that. Mm-hmm. Looking at where you haven't, given yourself compassion, but giving yourself some room to do that. I think is also important. And even, like, being in a relationship and then getting out of one, mm-hmm. you don't want to end up the same person that you once were when you come out of a relationship. You've learned things, you've discovered things newly about yourself and about what you want in a relationship.
Yeah.
And then going through that, even that could be, that's another way that you can, decide the difference between alone and, like, being lonely.
Yeah.
I think it's very heavy that we feel alone when we got out of a relationship, but it's really not that we're lonely. Maybe it's the missing of the person and mm-hmm. like it's that feeling, and it may feel deeply, but also being excited to be alone.
Yeah.
To rediscover yourself, like you said.
And your interests,
right.
like your likes, your dislikes, and just as much in a relationship as we decide what we want and don't want, we discover who we want to be inside of that. So the version of Jalen or Allie that went into the last relationship that we did is not the same version of us that we want to go into our next relationship. Because there were things we didn't know about ourselves, about what we wanted and who we wanted to be as a partner, as a friend as well. Because I know there are a lot of people as well who don't maintain other relationships outside of their relationship when they're in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. But it's okay, but it's something that you learn. You of course you're growing with another human and, like, you're always together, stuff like that, but it's also important to know, when you're not cutting off your other outside relationships, but just, like, giving less time and why you're doing that. I've definitely done that a lot. I think it's a pattern in what I do over time, not just one specific relationship or anything like that. And I think that's something to discover even about myself still. We just get so wrapped up into people that it's also, outside of just being alone, it's also good to know why it's important to be by yourself. You know what I mean?
Like, discover the opportunity
to be by yourself.
Yeah.
What's that mean? What were we gonna say?
No, I was saying like the opportunity to be alone. Like, there's this, I'm alone, like, I'm a victim of someone not wanting to be with me. And there's, like, a difference. Like, however your last relationship ended or you've never been in one, there's, I choose to be alone. Like, I choose to take this time to discover myself newly, to evolve in the places where I want to evolve. And like you said, within relationships, I think you have a strong sense of self once you've been alone for a period of time. So that way, when you do go into relationships, you get to maintain a certain level of individuality. You know what I mean? Because I don't care who I'm with. There's always going to be a like, okay, well, I need some alone time. You know, that's like a pretty general thing. I can love spending time with people and, okay, it was great to be with you, and now I'm going to go be with myself for a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't think that the need for that goes away.
I mean, I don't think it should. I think that's something that we should be aware of more to work on, because I know when I'm wrapped up in it, I don't take that much time to be alone. And so then you develop this codependency, you know, of like, I need that person all the time. I need them, like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, who am I?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those cycles. So I think, you know, ultimately being alone and lonely is obviously different, but what you can get from it is you get to be alone, right? You get to discover yourself newly all the time. You get to learn your interests, learn who you are, and if you don't like something, discover yourself newly. And knowing that even loneliness comes up as a feeling and as an emotion, you don't have to stay there. You get to share that with people, and also dig deep as to why you feel that way. Why am I feeling this sense of loneliness, even though all these people are here?
I think that's like a really good point. Is like looking at why do I feel this way? And for me, it was like, okay, maybe I haven't spent enough time with myself to like rediscover certain parts of myself that I wasn't aware of, or a need that I wasn't aware of, or a missing that I wasn't aware of. And for me, it was more like self-expression. So like, where in my life am I self-expressed? And when I looked, that was my missing, you know? And adding that to my life has now removed the feeling of loneliness.
So we really want to know what you guys think about being alone versus being lonely. Have you ever felt that before? You know, what got you out of it? If you're still dealing with it, please feel free to comment below, and as well as any other topics that you feel like we should go over.
And if you got value from this video and want to see more like it, we'd appreciate you liking, subscribing, and turning your post notifications on.
Look at y'all, that was great.